From the outside, they seemed like the perfect pair. Veronica Blake, a glamorous socialite, and Edward Blake, a self-made millionaire, were the talk of high society. Their lavish parties, designer wardrobes, and exotic vacations made them the envy of everyone around them. Veronica, with her dazzling smile and effortless charm, was the life of every event. Edward, the quiet and reserved businessman, provided the wealth that made their extravagant lifestyle possible. Together, they appeared to have it all: love, success, and a picture-perfect marriage. But behind the glittering facade, cracks were beginning to form. Edward's businesses had taken a hit recently, and while he tried to keep up appearances, those closest to him knew the strain was starting to show. Veronica, used to a life of luxury, wasn't happy with the changes. She had grown accustomed to having everything she wanted, whenever she wanted it. And now, Edward's growing financial concerns were threatening her carefully curated image. Their arguments, once rare, became more frequent. Friends noticed the tension between them, but no one thought it was anything serious. After all, every marriage has its ups and downs. What no one knew was that Veronica had a plan that would ensure she never had to worry about money again. It started subtly. Veronica began researching poisons, reading about their effects and how they could be administered without raising suspicion. She wasn't in a rush. After all, patience was part of her charm. She knew she had to play her cards carefully, keeping up her role as the devoted wife while setting her plan in motion. The turning point came during one of their arguments. Edward, tired of Veronica's constant demands, told her he was considering restructuring his will. He planned to leave the majority of his wealth to charities and family members, with only a modest sum allocated to Veronica. She was furious, but kept her composure. Later that evening, as Edward slept, Veronica made a decision. If she couldn't secure her future through Edward's generosity, she would take matters into her own hands. Before we go any further, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Stories like these deserve to be told, and your support helps us uncover the truth behind the world's darkest betrayals. Veronica's next move was chilling in its precision. She started adding small doses of poison to Edward's nightly tea, just enough to make him feel unwell, but not enough to raise suspicion. Edward, already under stress from his work, attributed his symptoms to exhaustion and poor diet. Veronica played the concerned wife, encouraging him to rest and taking over the household responsibilities. In reality, she was slowly taking control of every aspect of his life. But secrets like this don't stay hidden forever. Edward's health continued to decline, and soon those around him began to notice. Friends and colleagues urged him to see a doctor, but Veronica always found a way to delay his appointments. She insisted she could take care of him, that he didn't need to worry. Edward trusted her completely, a trust that would ultimately cost him his life. Edward Blake's health worsened over the following months. Once a strong and confident man, he now appeared frail and confused. He experienced bouts of nausea, dizziness, and extreme fatigue. Veronica, ever the attentive wife in public, explained away his symptoms as the result of stress and overwork. Behind closed doors, she continued to administer carefully measured doses of poison, confident that her plan was foolproof. Edward's colleagues grew increasingly concerned. He began missing meetings and struggled to focus during important discussions. His closest friend, Richard, noticed something wasn't right. Edward had confided in him weeks earlier, admitting he felt weaker every day, but couldn't pinpoint why. Richard urged him to see a doctor, but Edward shrugged it off, trusting Veronica's reassurances that he just needed rest. Then came the day that changed everything. During a dinner party at their home, Edward collapsed in front of their guests. The room fell silent as panic spread. Veronica quickly took charge, insisting it was just exhaustion and urging everyone to stay calm. An ambulance was called, but Veronica insisted on riding with Edward alone, keeping everyone else at bay. At the hospital, doctors ran tests and found elevated levels of toxins in Edward's blood. They were puzzled, as the symptoms didn't align with any known illnesses. When Veronica heard the results, her calm facade slipped for just a moment, but she quickly regained her composure. blaming Edward's condition on a supplement he'd recently started taking. The doctors noted her explanation and continued their tests, but something about the situation didn't sit right with them. Meanwhile, Richard decided to dig deeper. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was being hidden. He remembered a conversation he'd overheard weeks earlier, where Veronica had expressed frustration about Edward's plans to revise his will. At the time, it seemed like a harmless complaint, but now, in light of Edward's sudden decline, it felt more ominous. Richard shared his concerns with the doctors, who began to take a closer look at Edward's test results. They found traces of a rare and highly toxic substance, one that could only have been administered intentionally. This was no accident. The police were called and an investigation was launched. Veronica, unaware that she was under scrutiny, continued her routine as though nothing had changed. She visited Edward in the hospital, bringing him meals and comforting him, all while maintaining her carefully crafted image of a devoted wife. But the cracks in her story were beginning to show. Investigators searched the Blake home and found evidence that pointed directly to Veronica. In her personal belongings, they discovered receipts for online purchases of the poison, as well as searches on her laptop for ways to administer it undetected. It was enough to warrant her arrest. Before we reveal the shocking conclusion, take a moment to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Your support helps us bring you these chilling stories and uncover the truth behind some of the world's darkest betrayals. Veronica was taken into custody, maintaining her innocence throughout the questioning. She claimed the receipts and searches were unrelated, insisting she would never harm Edward. But the evidence was overwhelming, and her calm demeanor began to falter. The woman who had always been in control was now at the mercy of the justice system. Edward, still unaware of the full extent of what had happened, remained in critical condition. The doctors did everything they could to reverse the damage, but the poison had taken its toll. As the investigation continued, more details about Veronica's motives and methods came to light, painting a chilling picture of a woman willing to do anything to secure her future. As investigators dug deeper into Veronica Blake's life, the image of the glamorous socialite began to unravel. Bank statements showed that she had been quietly moving large sums of money into private accounts, preparing for a life without Edward. Emails and text messages painted a picture of a woman frustrated with her husband's declining wealth and increasingly desperate to maintain her luxurious lifestyle. The most damning piece of evidence came from Veronica's own laptop. Investigators uncovered detailed research into the poison she had been using, including articles about its symptoms and how it could mimic natural illnesses. There was even a bookmarked website for purchasing the toxin discreetly. These findings left little doubt about her intentions. In court, the prosecution presented a chilling narrative. Veronica, consumed by greed and a desire for control, had slowly poisoned her husband over months, all while playing the role of a loving wife. They argued that she had planned the crime meticulously, ensuring that Edward's symptoms wouldn't raise suspicion until it was too late. Her motive was clear. She wanted Edward's fortune and she was willing to kill for it. Veronica's defense team tried to paint a different picture, claiming she had no knowledge of the poison and that the purchases and searches were coincidental. They argued that Veronica loved her husband and would never harm him. But the evidence against her was overwhelming, and her performance in court failed to convince the jury. Edward's condition had stabilized by the time the trial concluded, but he was left with lasting health issues from the months of poisoning. He testified against Veronica, recounting how he had trusted her completely and never suspected she could betray him in such a way. His testimony was emotional, and many in the courtroom were moved by his courage. The jury deliberated for just a few hours before returning their verdict: guilty. Veronica was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 20 years. As she was led out of the courtroom, her once confident demeanor was replaced by a blank expression. The woman who had spent her life chasing wealth and status now faced a future defined by confinement and disgrace. Edward, though deeply hurt by the betrayal, expressed relief that justice had been served. "She took everything from me," he said in a statement. "Not just my health, but my trust, my sense of safety. But I'm grateful to be alive, and I hope this serves as a warning to others." The case sent shockwaves through their social circle and beyond. It was a stark reminder that even those who seem to have it all can hide dark secrets. Veronica's story became a cautionary tale, a chilling example of how greed and betrayal can destroy lives. What do you think about this story? Could Edward have seen the warning signs earlier, or was Veronica's deception too carefully planned? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story shocked you, make sure to follow us and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another gripping tale. Your support helps us uncover the darkest truths and bring these stories to light. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay curious, stay questioning, and remember, justice always has a way of finding the truth.